out more, to go see Desiree at the table out there in the fellowship area. If you're watching online, you can email info@ourwatchnow.com, and we'll be in touch with some more information about that. So let's take over those school boards. We need your help to be able to do it. Go talk to Desiree. Next Wednesday, we have a repeat guest. He's been here before. This is Christopher Harris. He is a U.S. Border Patrol agent, retired National Border Patrol Council official, and retired Director of Legislative and Political Affairs for the Local 1613. Now, if that's not a mouthful, I don't know what is. But basically, really awesome guy, been involved with the Border Patrol down in San Diego and elsewhere for quite a long time. So if you haven't already, go to the ourwatchnow.com website for more information. Join the email list. That way you can get up to date on things that are coming up and what's happening with Our Watch. And like and follow on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure that you are subscribed on the YouTube and the Rebel channels. And if you're watching right now online, make sure that you're sharing this video so that all of your friends can see it, and share the post after the fact as well. We want as many people to be able to get the message tonight as possible. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes here. Got an introduction video, and then you can just sit back and relax and enjoy Wednesday Night Live.
This past year, the radical left with their globalist mindset has burned down our cities, forced businesses to close, and tried to silence our churches. They told us to wear a mask and stay home to save lives, and many Christians remain silent. That is no longer an option. The silent majority will be silent no more, and the sleeping giant has been awakened. We are going to use our voice to take back the media, stop the censorship, and very loudly take back the public square. I'm Tim Thompson, and this is Our Watch.
Well, good evening, everybody. So good to see you all here tonight. And I do want to say hello to everybody that is tuned in online. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live here with Our Watch. So grateful to have you all joining us. So many things going on in this world. Want to remind you why we do what we do. We are trying to take back the public square. You know, one of the things that we talked about several times on this program is that if you go back east and you look at all the roads back east, they all travel to the same central location. They're like wheels on a spoke. And the question then is, where are they all going to? Well, it was that public square. What was the public square? It was the church. The church was the place that people went to find out what was going on in the culture, find out what the Bible has to say about these things, and we need to recapture that, especially as we see the censorship that's going on right now. Anybody who's out speaking the truth gets silenced, and so there has to be a place where people can go where they know they're going to get good, solid, truthful information, and we endeavor to make that place again the church. So that's what we're doing on Wednesday nights. Glad to have you be a part of it. Want to remind you, if you haven't done so, to go to teensource.org. That's teensource.org. This is a place where the public school, or I don't even like calling it public school, I call it the government-ran school now. This is a place where they point your teenagers to. If you are a parent of a teenager or a guardian or a grandparent of a teenager, you need to know that the government-ran schools push people to teensource.org. And every week they're pumping out information. In fact, it comes out just before this program. They send it out once a week. This week they're trying to remind your teenagers to get that HPV vaccine. They're wanting them to get boosters of that vaccine. They just keep pushing more and more of these vaccines on our kids. And of course, they stay in there that you don't need to talk to your parents about this. Here's where you can go to get it without your parents knowing. Don't need your parents to consent. They're continually pushing that mantra of your parents' voice doesn't matter, and we need to know that. And that's one of the big reasons why we're trying to take back the public square, because our kids' future is at hand. So that being said, really excited to see what's going on here in Southern California. I've said this before. In fact, I wrote about it in my book, that we are seeing California is going to be the epicenter of great revival. It'll be, if you study American history, you look at the First Great Awakening, there was a place called the Burned Over District that was in New York. That Burned Over District was this place where the church was on fire. The Holy Spirit was moving, people's lives were being saved, and that was just this epicenter of revival during that First Great Awakening. Well, I believe, and I am seeing, that California, Southern California in particular, is an epicenter of great revival. God is on the move. God is showing himself to be the true God that he is and the true source of freedom. And everywhere we turn, our freedom is being stripped away from us, and true freedom lies in Jesus Christ. And so that is exciting for me, because we just this last Saturday, we're part of that Freedom Revival 2022, and our guests this evening were the ones that set up this Freedom Revival, the first one here in Southern California in the 2022 year, down there, Waterfront Park in San Diego, just this past Saturday. Please welcome out the event coordinators, Brittany Mayer, a.k.a. Rooted Wings, and Shaun Frederickson. How's it going?
It's going. I think we're finally waking up. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Here you go.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, you guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
And thank you for all the hard work that you guys have been putting in. I was telling Shaun, I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet, but I was telling Shaun at dinner, I've spoke at these all up and down the state, and this was the most well-oiled event I have been to. You guys did an incredible job.
So when he said that at dinner, I made sure that he would say that, because you needed to hear that.
I did.
Because she's been working. I would say she's the backbone of the entire event. She's an incredible leader. She's great at recognizing the holes and delegating. It wouldn't have been possible without Britt.
Oh, thanks, Shaun.
Yeah.
Shaun's the vision behind it. So honestly, when people ask, like, how did you guys pull this thing off? I mean, it was an epic event. And firstly, like, it was obedience. We felt so called into this. This was nothing you could dream up on our own. I truly feel like God was preparing us for this moment. But we had a dream team. We had, I'm sure Shaun told you, we had 20 visionaries behind this throughout the state of California who came together collectively to create this. And every person was so gifted and talented in their own right. And there was never competition. It was never about ego. This was literally about how do we build something for the kingdom. And it took off.
Yeah.
And in 5 weeks, we pulled it off.
Yeah. Did you ever think 5 years ago that you'd be involved in something like this?
No.
I had a dream that I would.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 19, I was like a vagabond in L.A., and there was a missionary team as I'm down in like Skid Row, like helping out with the homeless. And there was a missionary team from up north that came down, and they grabbed me and they said, one day you're going to be speaking to the thousands. And I was like, rad, that sounds cool. But I had no idea it'd be this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, who would have thought that this would be needed? But it is needed. It is so needed, and I really do believe that we're seeing a great revival. I believe we're seeing this as the epicenter. I really do believe that. We're watching. I have people calling me because I've been on other programs where I'm doing like daily news and prophecy, and people would call me from other states, from Kentucky, Tennessee. Some of these places like Tennessee, I've had people calling me from Tennessee saying, is there any pastors doing what you're doing out here in Tennessee? And it's funny because lots of people I know are moving to Tennessee. And then people in Tennessee are saying, we don't have anybody doing this. So California truly is an epicenter. We have some amazing pastors. Pastor Rob McCoy, who you had speak at the event, Pastor Jurgen, Pastor Cheon, Pastor John Randall.
Jurgen.
Yeah, Jurgen, Matthias.
Samuel.
Yeah. I mean, just incredible pastors that have really been fighting the good fight. And hopefully we'll start to see more pastors join in that fight. It's funny because when this whole thing started, there was several pastors who were fighting really hard and staying open. And then it was like a year later, all of a sudden other ones started jumping in. Like John MacArthur was shut down and masked up and everything at first. And then when he came out and he opened up, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, John MacArthur. But it's like, man, Rob McCoy had been, threatened with arrest prior to that. Pastor Mike McClure from up in San Jose, Calvary Chapel, San Jose, that guy had $4 million in fines for remaining open. So these guys are in the fight. They've been fighting hard, and you both have been an online presence that people have grown to trust. So what is it about what you guys have been putting out? Why do you think so many people are tuning in to listen to you both?
I would say people are so hungry. That's where the story we find ourselves in right now is people are so hungry. When I first posted my first anti-narrative post, it was, almost 2 years ago. It was pretty fresh out of the gate. And I remember when Italy shut down being really scared and thinking, this thing's gonna kill everybody. We're being told 2.2 million dead by the summer. This is frightening. But I am an analyst, and so I started following the data. And about the time it hit the States and everyone started to panic, I was watching what was happening in Israel and in Italy and thinking, wait a second, the data's not matching up. And I remember talking to my husband when I made my first post and saying, this is the jump ship point. If I put my face out here and if I question this narrative, I'm done. This is it, because people are going to recognize me. And that was during the time where you were crucified if you weren't saying, stay home, love your neighbor, mask up. And I was like, actually, I don't think this is loving your neighbor, because we're not being told the truth. And churches are hospitals, and churches have no business closing down. And rapidly, from, I think I had 500 followers, it was a little homeschool account, rapidly it went up to, now I think we're over 150,000. And it was because people came hungry. And that's what Shaun and I have talked about in the last, Shaun and I have been fighting together literally on the street and in the county buildings for months and months and months. And that's what we keep noticing is there's such a hunger. And this is such a moment, and the harvest is so ripe. And I think what we have been doing in going to the counties and the city meetings and calling in for all the redistricting meetings and going to every rally has been good, but we're coming to a point now where the hunger has changed. And I think people are hungry now for a spiritual awakening. And that's the story that we're in now. And how powerful, how amazing to be here now. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than to be living right here in this moment and what God is doing in our county and in our state.
Yeah. If I can jump in there, churches have failed. Churches have failed the people, and the people haven't been equipped with the tools to navigate the rough seas. And so I visualize there are people out at sea that have been told, you're sea ready. So they get out there, they're halfway out there, and they're freaking out because the ship's tossing and turning in the waves, and they have no idea what to do with the sails. And they're like, well, how do we Google it? And there's no service. And so here we are, almost like setting the example to say, this is what it looks like to be courageous. And that's one of the reasons we brought you. It's because you've done such a great job of standing in the gap, being courageous, and showing people this is what it looks like, because we're jump-starting them. It's almost like we're doing a crash course mid-seat to say, guys, we've got to cross the ocean. There's no going back. This is how we're moving forward. And the churches, sadly enough, have failed to do such a simple message to equip the saints.
Right. Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%. I look at what's happened over just the last 2 years. Quite honestly, people say I'm crazy for saying this, but I absolutely thank God for COVID. I thank God for the last 2 years. I think it's the best thing that could have happened to this world. I'm not saying God brought it and gave it to us at all. In fact, I think we all need to remember where this came from. A lot of people keep getting upset at everything's going on, and then I don't hear the word China anymore. We need to be remembering where this came from. We need to remember how this got introduced. In fact, in January of 2021, or 2020, January, before this even hit, before there were shutdowns, I was on a was doing that national news thing I was talking about, where we do news and prophecy, and I was talking about it. I was telling people where it came from, how it was going to work. Before it even happened, I was telling people how it was going to work, what was going to happen, and people were telling me, you're crazy. And yet here we are, and this is what's happened. And I do believe God used this. And prior to COVID, I was real busy trying to expose what's going on in the public school system. And for the life of me, I couldn't get parents to agree that these things were happening. The government-ran schools are indoctrinating our kids to be anti-America, anti-family, anti-anything that's right and good and wholesome. So I've been trying to get parents to understand that this is happening, and I always got met with the same exact response. Not in my school. Not in my school. And I kept telling them, yes, in your school, I guarantee you. In fact, I got the FOIA, because I did FOIA demands. I got the FOIA records showing, and our attorney, Netta Higuera from Advocates for Faith and Freedom, who's here tonight, she's awesome. By the way, that's her right there. She's awesome. She did the FOIA demands, and we got the actual information proving what they were doing. And I showed the proof. And then the school district wrote me a letter personally telling me, this is going to happen. We're going to teach your kids this. And I show the letter to parents, and they go, no, it's not happening. It's like they're like the proverbial head in the sand. They just, if I don't see the truth, then, and I'm going, well, but you do see it. And but even still, they're like, no. COVID brought about a time where parents are at home paying attention. They can see what's happening, and I thank God for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like we needed to be forced into a position where we were uncomfortable, where so many of these parents that you're exposing, these letters talking about the sex ed or whatever see critical race theory, my God, and the parents could ignore it because they had a higher obligation. Their debt ceiling is just growing, and all they're thinking, I need to put overtime in this week. My kid will be fine. I'll get to that at some other point. Right. And COVID luckily put a stick right in the hub, and so they had to come screaming to a halt and assess some information. Whether it's because of their desire for their children to have quality education, or if it's their desire to recognize that they've got to do something as a parent. Who knows what the reason is, but these parents have to get engaged at this moment.
Yeah, and I would add, too, that I've been thinking for a while through all of this that the verse keeps coming to mind that God is shaking what needs to be shaken up, so that's what is unshakable will remain. And that's where we've been in the last 2 years. It's been this massive shaking of every system and infrastructure and families and idols and dependency, and like Shaun just said, to make us uncomfortable so that is unshakable will remain. And truly we know that's the kingdom. The kingdom is what is unshakable, and that's what revival was all about, was stirring in the hearts of men and women that hunger for the thing that is unshakable, and that's the kingdom, that at the end of the day. And that's why I have never been afraid every step of speaking against the narrative and questioning those in quasi-authority. I've never been afraid because I know the better kingdom, and I walk in that, and there's such victory in that. And I truly believe that this is the time to call people in. That's what we're seeing. I believe we are going to see a massive harvest.
Yes.
And I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I agree. We're seeing it already. You had your event. How many people would you say were there?
We're thinking 10,000. So the estimate's between 8 and 12.
12,000 sounds a little better.
Yeah, we can say 8 to 12 schools.
I was going to go with 20, but then he calmed me down a little bit.
It was a pretty massive event. How many of you were there? Oh, a lot of you.
Yeah,
oh, thank you
awesome.
guys. Thank you all for being there.
So it was a great event. We have a quick little recap video. I'd like to show that now, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So take a look.
So Freedom Revival is to spark the hearts of men to get activated once again. Let's show people what freedom really looks like. Freedom is joy and hope and love, and that comes through Christ. That comes through the example of Jesus Christ's teachings. This is it. This is the birth of something great.
So the Bible says that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And that's what this is about. This is about reclaiming liberty that is inerrant. This is pushing back against the mandates about the tyrannical policies. We will be Americans, we will be Christians, and we will walk in that victorious authority.
In 2022, we're making an effort to try and get politicians to actually care about the people and not try to follow a political agenda. It's about freedom in every aspect for all Americans. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. And that's what Freedom Revival is. All these leaders got together and we created this, a bastion for people to come to be emboldened in Christ.
You know, when we thought about this event, when we thought about bringing this many people together, we had no idea what God was going to do, but we knew that there was something missing, not just in our state, but in our nation. We knew something was missing, and the one thing that we could focus on that was missing was God. We're going to revive this county, we're going to revive this state, we're going to revive this nation, and we're going to bring God back into it. It's going to be powerful. And we love you guys. We hope to see you at our next event, because this is just the beginning. Freedom Revival 2022. Let's go.
So a couple of things I want to bring out from that video. First, you talked about those things that people are longing for and how those things are found in Jesus Christ. And then I heard that we want to get good Christian people involved in the political arena, which is definitely an endeavor that Our Watch is trying to do over this next election cycle, especially with the school boards. That's my main focus. The problem is the political world, even ones who are conservative and claim to be Christian, don't want to bring Christianity into the political world. And especially when you have pastors who go, oh, I can't talk about those things, that's politics. Well, the radical left knows that. The radical left then politicizes every biblical moral issue you can think of. They politicize race, gender, sexuality, life, borders, you name it. If it's a biblical issue, which all of those things I just mentioned are, if it's a biblical issue, they politicize it, and then the pastors disengage. And the Christians involved in politics say, we don't want to bring that into politics. So what do we do?
Well, to start with, it's a total misunderstanding of the scripture. Jesus was very specific when he said, this is the ecclesia, right? Ecclesia means to, or ecclesia, however it's pronounced.
Ecclesia, you're right.
It means to engage. And if he wanted a church that wouldn't engage, he would have never used that term. He was saying, go, get involved, push back, bring the kingdom to the people. Well, during that time, the ecclesia was a place, it was a public square where the intellects would meet and discuss things that were relevant to culture. He was literally saying, I'm building you so you will go and transform, be transformative. And somehow along the way, we were taught that, no. Christians are supposed to stay out of ecclesia. We're just supposed to be in the church praying and doing Bible study, which has a place. Yes, we are supposed to pray and contend for the place in which we live. But if we don't get involved, then who is the conscience of the state? Who's the conscience? Well, darkness rules because we have not gone in to be that transformative life and light and to be the conscience that we were told to be and to behave. So I think it starts with pastors preaching with authority the way that it was meant to be taught. And then I think that I really want Shaun to talk about how he ended revival because it was so powerful and it really laid into that, the wall between church and state.
He had just a little bit of passion.
Just a tiny bit. Shaun doesn't get passionate at all.
Chill out, all right? Oh my God, I'm so frustrated with the church and politics. And I believe it goes back to government education, where you have government education that's using the tools at hand to ill-equip their students to ensure that their students will be pawns in the future. So if they're religious, they put them in that department, and if they're willing to do as they're told, they put them in that department. And it's interesting because the second you begin to look, I mean, as we began to investigate history, we realize, man, this nation not only was founded by pastors or founded by the doctrine of Judeo-Christian ideas, that the covenant of the U.S. Constitution is founded on the Old Testament. It's founded on the nature of what a covenant is. But here we are 250 years later saying, oh, well, you can't talk about God in a courtroom. You got to take the 10 Commandments down because we've been so poorly educated and we're not curious anymore. Why do we trust the news? Why do we trust authority? At what point as free men did we decide, let somebody else tell me what I'm supposed to do? That's not how free men live. Free men have been called to be responsible themselves, to be inquisitive. But at some point, we've been told my job as an American is to learn whatever my role is and stay in my lane. That's foolish, because now we're in a system, and that system is leveraging our ability to monetize off that system, and you have all these terrible individuals in office that are playing on our ignorance. And they know we're ignorant. And they'll do it right in front of us. We've been at the San Diego County Board of Supervisors dozens of times. We pull in hundreds of people. And we anticipate if we can get enough people that are present, then they'll be forced to do what we're requesting. But on the sad side of this is what we realize is that it doesn't do anything. 500 people are standing there in opposition of a piece of a legislation that they're putting forth.
Until midnight.
Until midnight. And they ignore us. And they say, well, you 500, you're just a group of alt-right conspiracy theorists. They write us off, and they say our constituents are actually outside the building. We represent everybody else. We have an obligation to fix the system. And if we don't fix it, it doesn't fix itself. And only moral men are capable of recognizing the problem. Immoral men are going to realize they've got an opportunity to capitalize on the ignorant.
And that's exactly what we've been in.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to that, though. And I think more, there's 500 that show up. Each of those 500 people represents a whole bunch of people that couldn't be there. And that's what they fail to realize. And it's going to take the election in 2022 to show them. And this is where we have to be engaged. I want to show a quick video. MSNBC's Joy Reid and what she said today. Take a look.
Let's talk about what other countries are doing, because at some point, I feel like people who are willfully unvaccinated, fine, don't get vaccinated. But they need to start to pay a little bit more of the cost of what this is doing to our system. There are fines that are levied in places like Germany. Germany has stopped paying for the tests, the virus tests for people who choose to be unvaccinated. They've ended quarantine pay for those without vaccinations. IKEA, the company, is slashing sick pay for unvaccinated users.
So this is a good point in time tonight for me to just say, if you are watching us right now on YouTube, switch over to Rumble, if you would. We're going to continue on Rumble, but go ahead and switch off of YouTube for right now, because we're going to talk about what Joy Reid just said. Yes. Yeah.